Hey y'all, I'm very excited as a Gen Xer and as a sports ball watcher and an Atlanta Braves fan uh, and somebody who remembers the John Rocker controversy from 1999. So excited to see that Sam Hyde is hosting John Rocker on his show. Uh, haven't watched the interview yet, but I can tell you I had a veritable sportsgasm, um, sports ball gasm when I saw that. What an incredible pairing! Um, and why hasn't it happened before now? But better late than never. You know, perfect perfect guest for Sam to have on his show. Uh, if you want to know who John Rocker was, if you don't know, or if you just think sports is gay and you don't care, well, you might make an exception with John Rocker. John Rocker was a relief pitcher for the Atlanta Braves. He threw really hard. He was a lefty. He had some control issues, but the most interesting thing about him was uh, that I believe it was late 1999, after the Braves had just played the Mets, um, had beaten the Mets and then lost to the Yankees in the World Series. So they gone straight up against two New York teams, and John Rocker was uh, the subject of this hack piece, um, this hack job, this attempt to demolish him, uh, just because he uh, he was open about his ideas and open about his opinions concerning New York and concerning uh, immigrants and other things. Uh, so let me try to find the exact quote from the Sports Illustrated article that caused so much of a ruckus. Okay, here we go. This was in Sports Illustrated, a Sports Illustrated profile of John Rocker the year after the Braves made it to the World Series and beat the Mets, but then lost to the Yankees. When asked if he'd ever play for the Mets or the Yankees, Rocker said, "I'd retire first. It's the most hectic, nerve-wracking city. Imagine having to take the number 7 train to the ballpark, looking like you're riding through Beirut, next to some kid with purple hair, next to some queer with AIDS, next to some dude who just got out of jail for the 4th time, right next to some 20-year-old mom with 4 kids. It's depressing. The biggest thing I don't like about New York are all the foreigners. You can walk an entire block in Times Square and not hear anybody speaking English. Asians and Koreans and Vietnamese and Indians and Russians and Spanish people and everything up there. How the hell do they get in this country?" That's, uh, now the thing is, back when he was quoted as saying this, and he said this to he was being real. He said this right to a Sports Illustrated reporter. He wasn't putting on airs. He wasn't pretending to be something he wasn't. Uh, he wasn't deciding to tone it down. He was telling him how he really felt about the idea of having to play in New York City and ride the number 7 train every day. Um, uh, Back then, people didn't say, "Oh," we didn't say, "Damn man, based." I mean, that's the way people, a lot of people, not everybody, of course, but that's the people hear you say stuff like that today, and they say, "Hey, you're based, man. You're based, and based is something is a good thing. It's a compliment uh, to those who use it. But back then it was just uh, all anybody did in reacting to the quote was virtue signal. All anybody did was say, "Oh, what an ignorant, racist redneck! Uh, what a son of a bitch! What a shithead!" You know, uh, what an ignoramus. You know, when actually what he was saying was, you know, I mean, have you been to New York? Have you been to New York City? Have you ridden the number 7 train in New York City? Have you walked around Times Square and heard uh, the languages that are spoken by the people there? Where is he wrong? This was, and again, this was in 1999. Uh, you know, like it or hate it, you know, it's or however you feel about it, he was spitting facts. But of course, it was there's never really been a story like this in sports before or since, I don't think, where a single athlete was ganged up on in this way, you know, just by everybody, by all right-minded people, all the self-righteous, virtue signaling types of people. Um, and I think he was even suspended for a time the following year. But the thing is, when he came back, uh, and when he was, you know, and he got grief from some of his teammates. Some of his teammates were talking him were taking him to task. You know, they could have at least said no comment, because, you know, don't you know, he's on your team, you know, even if you don't like what he said about New York for whatever reason. Um, but uh, but he gets introduced for the first time, comes running out from the bullpen, which is his trademark thing. He would sprint out to the mound from the bullpen, and a roar went up, a huge cheer went up from Atlanta Braves fans, and the self-righteous virtue signaling types were all so shocked and appalled. What are these people doing? Why are they cheering for him? How could they do? How could they show support for somebody like this? How could they? Um, and you know, it got really bad. It was like, you know, there was so much hostility. I mean, he got support from the home fans and probably from some other some fans in other cities as well. But of course, when he went back to when the Braves played in New York again, you know, they were all, you know, the New York fans were already you know, they already have the reputation that they have, and so yeah, it got really really ugly, and it's never I don't think I've seen a story quite like that since then in sports. I mean, there have been other people who've been canceled, and I don't think John Rocker was the first to get canceled. You know, political correctness had been around by that time, had been around for about a decade. Um, and but I also remember that Colin Quinn, who was he was doing the news segment of Saturday Night Live at the time. He read out the quote that I just read a few minutes ago of what John Rocker said, and then his response to it was, you know, I'm not saying I like the guy, but he's obviously ridden the number 7 train. So basically saying he's right. John Rocker was right. And so good on Sam to have him on the show. And God bless you, John Rocker. You know, nearly 30 years later, from an Atlanta Braves fan from way back.